Hello! What first SLR should I buy when starting out in analogue photography? That's what I'm going to go through. So, I've narrowed it down to two things. And please bear with me with this, please, because I don't mean to be mean when I say this word, but it does come down to these two things, and it's okay to be this as well. So what two things do I mean? Well, I mean it comes down to vanity or practicality. And I don't mean this negatively as well, I just mean we just have to maybe accept that vanity might be on our list. If we like things that are shiny, that are popular, that are blah blah blah, then that's okay. Don't worry about it. It's just, I feel like I could go through a few things that I've learned over the last 3 years that genuinely might save you a few pennies first if we just do a few things. So I'm going to go through them today and yeah, hopefully help you out a little bit. So, let's do that cheesy thing that YouTube does and let's get in it. Dive in. Hello. Oh my god. Take 38. What a disastrous turn of events that set off. Crash in the wall, hole in the wall, light stopped working, backup light. Cat's then have then been triggered, and because it fell in the wall, it dropped some cat toys off on the floor. They've then spent the last 3 takes of me saying this, playing and shouting and screaming at each other. So, thrown said toys downstairs, they're far away from this, and I can actually get on and try and tell you something about what SLR you can get if you've already stayed tuned in on this. Bear with me, I promise, I'm going to try and help. So, really quickly, I'm a photographer, 15 years, just about done 100 weddings, never full time, but enough to call myself that I feel like I can do photography. 3 years ago, I wanted to do analogue. Photography is like an art form to me, and I mean this, it is an art form, and because of that, I just felt like my foundations had not been built properly on how I learned photography. So I set out a little challenge to learn a little bit more about it and not go mad. 3 years ago it started, and 2 years ago I started to take it a bit seriously and start shooting regularly in different film types, with different cameras, developing some rolls only a couple of times because I'm lazy. And yeah, I just love it. I fall in love with it. I think it's great. I shoot both digital and analog still, and I love the process of it. I love the feeling of it. I think it's really romantic, and there you go. Anyway, boring stuff, but what did I get on about at the beginning? Well, I've boiled this down and I'm going to check my notes for 2 things, and those 2 things are vanity and practicality. And the reason for that is, if you are a super experienced photographer super experienced photographer, and like me, you have a bit of a just itching to sort of go back to film, or you want to learn it, then there is an element of you could just choose vanity and just pick a lovely camera. Right, so figure, let's break it down. What we're talking about, what type of cameras have you got, and what do you want to get? Well, we've sort of touched on it, but first off, you got your trendy Wendy cameras. We're talking about the, Leica M6, the Canon EA1, the Nikon FM2, whatever. All these cameras that are, I guess, like beacons and icons of historic value of when you look back at famous photographers and photographers you will admire. They'll be holding these types of cameras. But they were in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s and the 80s, and I think it's just worth explaining and recognising to yourself that as technology improves year on year, the product improves. So it is one thing holding something that you just feel a connection to, and another generally trying to persuade yourself that this is going to take a better picture than an SLR made in 2000, and that's what it boils down to. So that's that one section. You've got your trendy Wendy cameras, you've got your point and shoots, you've got your fun ones, the stuff like this here, Olympus Zoom 105, and your Canon Z70W, just point and shoot, fun stuff. Throw lomography film in there or whatever, just a bit of fun. That's brilliant. And then you've got what I like to call your modern, your practical ones, your ones like I've used like your Nikon F80, your Nikon F65, all these sort of ones, a Canon, the ones that were made before digital took off, so where they were focused only on making that SLR camera better and making the metering better, making the focus better, making the comfortability of it, the lightness of it, all those things, the batteries last longer, whatever. So And I think this boils on to one thing that I wanted to talk about today, and it's what's most important to you. And that's where you've got to be honest with yourself, because I tell you what, if you've been shooting photography for 20 years and you're doing it similar to what I did 3 years ago, where you sort of feel like you want to learn it, you want to get that romance back and blah, 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 and you're really confident in your ability, then you know what, you can choose vanity completely over it. You know, you can play around with a manual focus. But there's one thing you've got to understand, and that's if you get one of them older cameras that's manual focus, like my Nikon F301, if you've never shot manual focus before, then you're going to struggle, and you're going to have to spend money learning on developing those films and finding out where you went wrong. Now, you've shot like tens of thousands of hours of manual, and you might pick it up a lot quicker. But even then, there's massive differences, and I liken this to, I've got a friend, Steve, good shout out there, fantastic photographer, Lysa man, and he shoots on Lysa Digital as well as analog now, but he shoots manual. So Steve's going to be far better at manual focus naturally than I would be in any way, because I very rarely shoot it. I do shoot manual. I've got one manual lens, and I use it at weddings for the arty-farty shots that you get of the rings and stuff like that, where I've got a bit of time to focus it. But in terms of manual shooting for people and moving life, I can't trust. I don't have that ability to do it at weddings, and I can't miss the moment, so I don't do it. So what I'm getting at here is, you buy a very expensive camera, you maybe buy a very expensive lens to go with it that's manual, and then you're going to spend a lot of money developing the films, honing your craft. Whereas if you're wanting to get better and learn about it, you buy something like the Nikon F65, this one, that I'm sure got this for like 15 quid. Not with this lens, the lens came with another camera I got, which I'll go on in a minute. And it takes fantastic shots, great autofocus. I think it's like mid-90s, I can't remember, this camera. And it's cheap. You buy that, you stick in a Kodak, Colour Plus 200 film that's as cheap as you're going to get. Put a manual lens on it, which is what I did, or a lens that you can be manual. So I put my 50mm Nikon lens on it and practice and take photos. Maybe use the autofocus a bit as well. Have a bit of fun with it, and you'll learn it. And then build up a bit of momentum for you then to treat yourself to maybe one that looks nicer. Because let's be honest, they don't look as nice. They take amazing photos. They don't look as nice, not as sexy as these older ones. Of course they're not. But there's got to be a process that you're going to go through, and I think sometimes people skip that, particularly as photographers, because we've done it for 10 years. We know what we're doing, but we know what we're doing with digital, and it is a different world, and you've got to accept that. Talking about, I want to try and break this down again a little bit quicker for you and a bit easier. If you want to go out on a shoot for 8 hours, look good, feel good with a nice camera, and come away experimenting, then I would go for the vanity project. However, if you genuinely want to learn about analog photography to, like I said, maybe find something that's missing in your photography, maybe get that fun back that you've been struggling with about the process and about maybe taking less pictures but better quality, then I can really only ever advise you and persuade you to just, even if it's for a month, just to grab a cheap knockoff second camera. Like I said, an F65. I mean, even the F80 that I bought, it's a little bit more money, but it's so much cheaper because it doesn't look as nice. And then stick into the cheapest film you can find. Formapan in UK 200 black and white film is excellent. And practice, and just remember that if you really want one of them older sort of pinfall cameras, that you need to stick a manual lens on it and start practicing manual, because that is the big problem I've got. And I've thrown up a few pictures to show you that I struggle with, and still struggle massively with the F301, and that's because it's an older camera. So if I use manual lens on my Fujifilm X-T4, I've forgotten what it's called, high peak. It tells me where I'm in focus, little red dashes. There's none of that here, and there's loads of skills that you could learn about manual focus, like focusing it on a meter and letting the person walk to you or move to you, not follow them, and all sorts of skills that you need to learn to master it. And I'm putting this video out really because I bought the 65 and learned a bit, but not much in that first year, and then jumped straight to a 301 and spent like hundreds of pounds on developing film, and they were all naff. It just wasn't metering right, or I wasn't telling the camera what to meter right, or or I was just out of focus and I just wasn't getting it bang on. So I reverted back to the F80 because I like buying things, and I found the quality of the pictures amazing, and I still use that now nearly as much, well no, just as much as the 301 because the quality is amazing. I actually really love using it. I love the feel of it, even though it doesn't look as nice as the F301. And the 301, I see it now as a challenge. It's like my challenge camera. I put in a film and I know that it might not be perfect, so I wouldn't take it to somewhere now where I don't trust myself with it, even now after 3 years still. It's just more of it's a fun, challengey one that I'll stick a film in and go see what I can get with it. Because again, that manual focus, getting the metering right, getting the exposure right is just difficult. It's more difficult, and that's my main tip for you. I would start out with your lower grade cameras. Get a 50mm lens on it. Don't get a zoom lens. And the reason for that is because again, you're just distracting yourself from the purpose of what you're trying to learn. So if you get a lens that's from, I don't know, 25mm to 100, you're constantly having to think, what focus am I getting at? Am I going to be at 50mm or 20? You stick a 50mm on that, you've forgotten, you don't have to worry about that at all. You just have to worry about focusing, and I feel like it compartmentalises, it minimises your ability to take a photo and just concentrate on the problem and the task at hand, as opposed to adding extra things in. Thank you for watching. I hope that was useful. I feel like I might have ranted too much, but take out of this, don't feel guilty for what I've said, by the way. If you come away from this and think, but I want a really nice camera and I'm confident I'm going to do it, then do it and be proud of it. Don't worry. It's more just for maybe I'll catch one or two people that might be, edging towards that, but realise, what, I do want to learn. I want to get better, and out of that, I just don't feel like you need to spend all that money learning when you could do it with a relatively cheap camera. And say relatively, dirt cheap camera. Get some dirt cheap filming and work your way up. Even if it's a month, even if it's 1 month, you say, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to learn for this month, then I promise you, you'll be better for it. And that's it. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and all that jazz, the YouTube stuff. I do lots of films about photography. I do a lot of films about me, silly, stupid stuff, because that's who I am. And yeah, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But thanks for watching this far. Leave a comment and let me know that you've watched it this far, and I will give you a kiss. Love you loads. See you later. Bye bye.